Hello friends, welcome back to Get Ready with America. This week I decided to be ambitious and talk about elections happening in 6 different states. Just living up to the Aries season vibes, I guess. We're talking state and local races in Alaska, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin that are all occurring next Tuesday, April 6th. We're not going to go as in depth as I did in the last video because otherwise we'd be here all day. But I'll be going over one race in each state and a quick rundown on how to vote there because guess what? It's different in every state. I'll timestamp each state in the description box if you want to skip around. And because it's hard to come up with a cohesive makeup theme with this kind of spread, we're going to be doing a look with the Daytime Realness palette from Wisconsin native Trixie. Let's get into it. Anchorage, Alaska is holding their regular nonpartisan election for mayor, replacing Austin Quinn Davis, who is the first female and openly gay mayor who is not running for election to a full term after being installed in October of 2020. Austin Quinn Davidson actually replaced Ethan Berkowitz, who resigned after a reporter alleged that they were having an affair. Good times. There are 14 candidates that are running in the race and 10 that are in the top getting the most coverage. Now, in order to win outright, one candidate needs to get 45% of the vote. Otherwise, the top 2 will go to a runoff on May 11th. Since there are 14 people running, there are 6 that are getting the coverage. If they even get like some sort of equal spread of the votes, I'm pretty sure we're going to be going into a runoff. Every eligible voter in Anchorage was sent a mail-in ballot, and the election is actually being run as a mail-in election. I actually worked in Alaska on Bernie's campaign where they pivoted from in-person caucuses to an all mail-in primary very quickly. So I'm actually glad to see they've stuck with this and are working on perfecting it. I think that is a really great move, just moving forward in general. Voting centers will be open on the 6th for any voters who had trouble with their mail-in ballot, whether they didn't receive it or they returned it and got a notification that it was challenged, so they need to go amend that. I actually linked in the description box below Anchorage's elections information page. Say that 3 times fast. And if you click on the Safe Election Plan link that is on that page, it explains more about where the voting centers are and what exactly you can do there. Another link that I have that's on that page is to a live stream of the election center where they process the ballots, which I absolutely watched while I was writing this script. It's the security cams feed of the warehouse room where they count ballots. It's boring as hell, and that's how I like my democracy. In Jackson, Mississippi, the mayor's seat and all 7 city council ward seats are up for re-election and holding a primary election on Tuesday the 6th. They will be holding a general election on Tuesday, June 8th for all of those seats. Now, in Mississippi and in Jackson specifically, they still hold a traditional primary where members from each individual political party go up against each other to determine who is going to represent the party on the ballot in the general election. And there are actually candidates from three parties, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the Independent Party. So there will be definitively a three-way race for the mayor's seat on June 8th. In the Democratic Party primary, there are three candidates, including incumbent Mayor Untitled Lumumba. In the Democratic Party primary, there are two candidates, and in the Independent Party primary, there are three candidates. In the primary races, a single candidate for each of those party primaries needs to get a majority of the votes, otherwise it will go to a runoff primary on Tuesday, April 27th, ahead of the June general election. In-person absentee voting is available through April 2nd. In the description box below, I've included a link that tells you who qualifies for the absentee voting. I'll warn you though that it has 2020 dates on it, so you might want to double check with your county office on what is going on this year. In my research, I already saw two articles on separate dates talking about how they made changes to a couple of the voting precincts. So I would also highly recommend that you double check exactly where you're supposed to go vote ahead of going out on April 6th, because I feel like there might be some more changes that happen. Additionally, in Mississippi, a photo ID is required to vote for anyone, regardless of if it's your first time or you've been voting at the same precinct for decades. I've also included a link to an info guide in the description box about what forms of ID are accepted at the polling place and the in-person absentee voting centers for when you go to vote. You can check your voter registration status on Mississippi's elections website, which is branded Y'all Vote. Now, I was going to make fun of Louisiana with Go Vote in my last video, but they at least had a cohesive branding strategy across their website, so I figured it was just mean. But Mississippi is barely trying with theirs. They just slapped Y'all Vote at the top of the homepage and also use it as kind of the tiny URL, and that's about it. I need them to try a little harder and just lean in a little more. I'm also now really curious about the corny voter participation campaign branding in every state, and I'm excited to discover it, but I'd also love to hear from you about what it is in your state, so please leave it in the comments below. And if your state, like New Jersey, doesn't have a corny voter participation campaign, what would it be called? Leave that down in the comments too. Christine and I are still workshopping New Jersey's, but so far for South Jersey, we have use Go Down to Polls. Working on it. In St. Louis, Missouri, we have two candidates that are vying for the mayoral seat after an open primary that was held on March 2nd. Now, this is a nonpartisan seat, but it is two registered Democrats that are vying for the seat. Treasurer Tashara Jones and Alderman Kara Spencer, both currently working within the city of St. Louis. This was actually the first time that the city used the approval voting method in the primary, which is just basically that voters vote for as many candidates as they want on the primary ballot. They're the second in the country to use this method, and it doesn't really give the clearest indication of who could win in this general. There are many voters who could have voted for both Jones and Spencer in the primary, so not entirely sure what the actual ultimate spread is going to look like when they have to pick one. This election is replacing Lyda Krewson, who did not run for re-election, assuming for lots of political reasons. Remember the Black Lives Matter protest that was heading toward her house that gave us Chad and Karen Rambo? Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. In the city of St. Louis, people are also voting for most of the wards, aldermen, the school board, and some propositions. In Missouri, they have the traditional absentee voting and in-person voting, where there is a limited number of reasons where you can request an absentee mail-in ballot, and otherwise you need to show up in person at the polls on election day. For the 2020 election, they did use mail-in ballots because of coronavirus, but they have since stopped that program and are going back to the regularly scheduled program. In the description box below, I've included a link to the city's election website, which is unfortunately a very sad website. We should get them on that. In Nebraska, I'll be talking about two primaries. First, because there's not really much to say, but also you'll see why. So in Lincoln, Nebraska, they are voting for 3 nonpartisan at-large city council positions. Candidates just have to live in the city and not in a specific ward for an at-large position. There are 12 candidates that are vying for the 3 seats. So after this primary, the top 6 vote getters are going to go on to a general on May 4th. In Omaha, they are voting for mayor and city council, and there are 6 mayoral candidates that are running in the primary, where the top 2 will go on for the general on May 11th. Incumbent Gene Stothert is a Republican who is running for a 3rd term as mayor, and all 5 of her challengers are Democrats, which I thought was a little interesting. As mentioned, all 7 wards are also up for re-election and are all going to be contested races. Yes, I did give 2 different general election dates for those cities. The cities are actually in different counties in Nebraska, so they can go wild like that. Voters in Nebraska can vote early in person or by mail-in ballot between March 22nd and April 5th, ahead of the election on April 6th. I am actually going to be linking the group Civic Nebraska in the description box below. They're a voting rights group that was actually incredibly helpful for me in my research and to understand the races and everything in Nebraska. So I'll leave that link down below if you need to get more information on how to vote or just the elections in general. In Oklahoma, there is a race to replace the representative for State Senate District 22, where Stephanie Beige was elected in 2020 to represent the 5th congressional district for Oklahoma. After a primary, 2 candidates are vying for this seat, Republican Jake Merrick and Democrat Molly Uten, neither of whom have held an elective office before. What's interesting about this race is that it has a potential to flip the seat from red to blue, which is incredibly exciting in Oklahoma for Democrats, where Republicans have a very strong hold on all levels of government in the state. Now, Republican Merrick is a COVID skeptic and believes there was massive fraud in the 2020 election and wants to join a very Republican state house to combat the liberal agenda at the federal level. He also wants to protect individual rights and end abortion. Democrat Molly Uten is a speech pathologist with the Oklahoma Department of Education, who was inspired to run for state office after seeing through her work how much more support is needed from the state for families. March 30th is the last day to apply for an absentee ballot, which anyone in the state can do. Ballots must be notarized or have a valid signature in order to be accepted, however, so please keep that in mind when you are applying for and then filling out your mail-in ballot. There is also an opportunity to vote early in person, April 1st and 2nd. I've linked the state's elections info pages down in the description box, of course, as well as the voter portal, so you can look up all of that information, including where to vote on the 6th if you are going to go vote in person on Election Day. And another thing, like Mississippi, you do need to have a valid photo ID to vote in person, either early or on Election Day. In the link below, there actually is, along with a list of their accepted IDs, links on how to obtain an ID if you do need one. And finally, Wisconsin, where voters across the state will be voting for the state superintendent, who runs Wisconsin's Department of Public Instruction, aka they're the top public educator in the state. This race is to replace Carolyn Stanford Taylor, who actually took over the role when Governor Tony Evers was elected and installed as governor of Wisconsin. After an open primary in February, Jill Underly and Deborah Kerr were the top 2 vote getters from a ballot of 7. Both have recent experience as local superintendents and also both identify as Democrats, but Underly is getting endorsements from unions and Democratic groups, while Kerr has support from former Governor Scott Walker and conservative groups. Basically, the thing that most divides them is their approach on how to get back to school during COVID and after COVID. If you're a little confused, like me, about electing this position, that makes sense because Wisconsin is one of only 13 states who elect this position. It's otherwise appointed by the governor in all of the other states. Wisconsin, like Louisiana, also has online voter registration through their Motor Vehicle Commission portal. The deadline has passed, though, to register through the MVC, but you can still register at your municipal clerk's office through this Friday, April 2nd, or you can register at the polls on Election Day. Magic! You'll need to bring proof of your address, so that means a utility bill or just something else that establishes your residency when you go to register. In Wisconsin, anyone can vote absentee by mail for any reason, and the deadline to request your ballot is this Thursday, April 1st, and the ballot must be returned by the 6th. I have a link to My Vote Wisconsin in the description box below. Please leave your suggestion for a corny voter participation campaign name. I'm thinking definitely cheese curd, dairy pun. Please lay it on me. All right, friends, please check and share the links in the description box to each city, county, state voter information page that I talked about today. I also have everything else I used on my face listed in there. Come back next time when I'll be talking about Texas, whose potential corny voter participation campaign name is Y'all Get Out and Vote. I workshopped that with someone who lives in Texas. Leave your states in the comments. I'm gonna go see what's going on with Anchorage's ballot counting. Bye.